All right, guys, welcome back to the sixth episode of the Elevated Podcast. Today we have a very special guest who is local to the Reno area. I would say he is probably within like my top three favorite photographers.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
He's gonna say like, "Nah, man, you're hyping me up," but no, this guy is fucking.
Don't gas me up like that.
Top three, if not top two. All right.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
But Fernando Montenegro, aka Nando, as everybody knows him, great fucking photographer, man. Tell us a little bit about what you do, man, for the people who don't already know you.
All right. Well, my name's Fernando Montenegro, like you said. I go by Nanders on social media, Twitter, Instagram. So a lot of people know me through that as that, you know. But I'm pretty much a portrait landscape photographer here in Reno. I've been doing photography full-time for almost 2 years.
Damn.
Actually,
Full-time.
next month, yeah.
Oh,
It's my 2-year anniversary. So
Oh, wow.
coming up to that. I've been shooting for a little over 5 years total. Last November was like my official, 5-year anniversary, I guess.
Damn.
But yeah, almost 2 full-time. I mean, I pretty much do anything portrait related, you know. I want to say my main focus is a lot of like couples and weddings, you know.
Right.
Obviously, last year didn't work out because of COVID. But not many weddings last year.
Yeah.
But hopefully this year is a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I just started as a hobby, and then we're here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I remember, like, dude, years ago. I mean, like you're saying, you started off like 5 years ago, man. But we used to go to Coffee Bar a lot, man. That was like the Sunday weekend hangout thing, right?
That was the spot.
Yeah. And I remember, like, the first time you were talking about it, you're like, dude, I want to get a camera and shit, but I don't know how to use one and stuff, man. So it's crazy, like, how you went from that to, like, where you are now, man. What made you want to start?
I think I always liked photography, you know, as like an art and stuff. Before photos, I was very into like drawing and painting, so I think I always had kind of like an eye for like artistic things. And in high school, I used to want to take a photography class, but I just didn't have money for a camera back then.
Right.
And my parents were like, nah.
Yeah,
like,
dude, exactly.
I'm not buying you a
have to
camera
rent
for a
it
freaking
out.
yeah. Like they're like, I'm not buying you a freaking camera for
A few $100 for you to
for
not
your
like it?
senior art class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, whatever. I kind of just let it be in the back, but I just always enjoyed it, and I thought it was a fun thing to do. You know, I'm like, yo, photography is like pretty cool. Like I used to see, obviously, like some people see really cool photos, and you're like, yo, this is cool. Like how'd they do that? You know? So, in the middle of like 2015, around that summer, I was going on a lot of hikes around this area here. And just kind of taking photos on like an old iPhone 4 at the time, you know, and that's how I discovered like editing, but through like Visco. Just a plain little like Visco back
gotcha.
then was
That's
like super standard. Like it
Right.
had
Yeah.
nothing. You just throw on a filter and maybe tweak it, and that's it. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And that was when I was kind of getting more into like Instagram. So I wanted to start posting like cooler things on Instagram rather than just like your typical random Instagram post or whatever. And so, yeah, like I saved up for a little bit, and I got a camera from a friend. She was selling like a little kit, you know, it was like a little Canon T5, but like the standard like zoom lenses and everything.
Yeah.
She sold it to me for like $300, which is a good deal because I looked it up on Best Buy at the time and it was like $550. So she just kind of wanted to get rid of it and go get like a GoPro or something, right? So I'm like, oh, I'll take it off your hands. Like, let's see how it goes. So that's the first camera I got, and I started just taking pictures of like landscape or going on hikes and stuff like that, and that kind of started getting me more into it. Then eventually people started to ask for portrait stuff, you know, and that was completely new to me because I didn't do any portraiture. Like I just shot Tahoe, Donner, like Reno, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think my first ever paid session was like some senior photos for like somebody in high school and stuff, and I went and did them. You know, I had no idea how to edit portraits because it's a completely like different ball game,
and it's a lot of time too. Like
Yeah.
people don't realize like one photo could take a while.
Yeah. Like if you're just not happy with how you're editing it, you can sit there for a long time like tweaking it out and being like, this is how I want it to look, you know. And so, you know, we did the shoot. might have charged her like $30-$40 because I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, when you're starting out, you don't want to charge people a lot of money. Like,
Right.
you don't even know how to price yourself or anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was just, I did the photos. I like went home that night, went through them. I think even back then I still hadn't gotten Lightroom. Like, I think I just threw them in the VSCO app on my phone and edited them that way. She was happy with them, but obviously I look at those now and I'm like, oh my God.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, but you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, these are just hot garbage, but whatever. You know, you start somewhere.
Yeah, dude. How long, like, after you started shooting and you got a little comfortable with it, like, how long after that was it when you first got that first paid shoot?
So that first like senior shoot was like in January of 2016.
Oh, okay.
So it had been like 3-4 months since I had just started shooting in general. And then, you know, when she posted those, other people saw them, and then more people were starting to come to me like, oh, you do portraits? Because no one had really seen me do that. I'm like, yeah, I'll do some senior pictures and stuff like that, you know. So then that kind of carried over for a few months, leading almost into like May, and then I was just doing like prom photos and things like that, you know, smaller things. And then I actually had a couple reach out for a wedding like in May, and I was like, whoa, dude, like that's big time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, that's completely different than doing some senior pictures or something.
Yeah, that's a
But I was
big
like,
deal, man.
holy
You
crap,
kinda
bro.
have to go everywhere and film all kinds of angles and
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's you know, preferably someone's once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
So you can't mess that up,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
You know, like if somebody's hiring you to go do wedding photos, like you better be on point. Like you can't mess that up. So
Right.
I just had no experience in the wedding market at the time. So what I did is I reached out to Chef and Davey.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chef and Davey.
Yeah.
Awesome guys. And you know, at that time they were doing weddings a lot. So they told me I could come with them to a wedding they had together because they were both going to be there. And Chef was doing photo, Davey was doing video. And so Chef was like, dude, just come second shoot with me. I'll kind of teach you the basics of like, this is what you do at a wedding and stuff like that. So that helped out a lot because that was about 2 months before the wedding I was supposed to do. So we went to go do the wedding, and I mean, I was just absorbing as much as I could. Like, make sure you pay attention to small details. Make sure you're on a time schedule, and then you get this shot and that shot and this, you know. So that helped me out a lot. And then by the time that wedding I had got inquired for came around, I was pretty comfortable with like, all right, I know the process, you know. So then that year I just did that one wedding, and then I didn't really like market myself for weddings a lot. So I just kind of kept doing smaller things for the rest of 2016. Kind of the same through 17. And like 17, I kind of had like a bit of a hiatus where I just wasn't feeling it much. I think I was just too focused on other things.
yeah.
But then eventually I realized like, no, I don't want to not be focused around it, you know? So I think I did maybe 3-4 weddings in 2017. And then 2018 was the year where I was like, I really gotta like try to do this.
Did you start marketing? Did you? Okay.
I started using free social media like Twitter and Instagram
Yeah.
to get myself out there more. Like on Twitter, I was doing like giveaways for like prints and stuff like that, and those garnered me like a ton of followers or people just seeing my stuff, because Twitter's kind of like a chain reaction, you know what I mean? Like somebody retweets your thing, and then their followers see it, and then their followers see it. So it's just like free marketing.
It is.
You know, like it really is. And, you know, so that was helping me a lot, because even if people didn't win, they'd see my stuff, or they would go see my Instagram. And they're like, oh, he shoots portraits too, so I want couples pictures or this and this and this and that, you know? So that was really getting me out there like that. And this was all like early 2018. And then... So since I started doing that more, I started to advertise more on bigger things. Like, hey, guys, I do weddings too. And I started posting more wedding stuff. Like around middle of the year 2018, I started to post a lot more wedding things. And I was starting to get a ton of weddings for the following year, which is 2019. And then like fall time of 2018 is when I really just like grinded it out. And I was just trying to like shoot every single day and post as much as I could to just get as much. Because I kind of told myself, hey, like if this really works out, in a couple of months, like I'll leave my job and try to go full time.
Oh shit!
But that was your idea from the get-go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like at first, you know, I started for fun. Like, I never once in a lifetime thought I'd be a full-time photographer, but, you know, it's
That's
funny how
crazy.
that happens. It was just that year of 2018, I was just not feeling college. And I'm like, I don't really want to go to school for something where I'm going to regret it and spend all this money and time. So it was just like, you know what if I just, you know, work hard and try to do this, you know, like if it works out, it does. If it doesn't, I'll go back to the normal plan of like getting a degree and, you know, going for everything like that.
Right.
So yeah, those last couple months of 2018 were just huge for me. I think that's where I had like the most growth of any year. I started getting a whole bunch of new clients, and people were posting my stuff like damn near every day because I was just like cranking out shoots, you know. And so I got a lot of more followers, a lot more clients. People were recommending me all over the place. And it's just, I was literally everywhere, bro, for like 3 months. You know? Like, I was sending people their photos so fast that like every other day I was getting tagged in something. And, you know, all these people were seeing it. So they were coming to me now. And so at the end of 2018, I noticed that I realized I had almost about 13 weddings for 2019.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Which was like a huge leap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I went from doing 1 to like 4 to 15. And I was like, holy crap, dude. And that was just from marketing that I do weddings.
Now, how long does it take to edit a wedding? I mean, that seems like a lot.
Yeah,
Does
I mean,
depend if they want video, if they want like a drone in the air?
Yeah, I mean, like, normally when I do a wedding, I just focus on photo because it's a bit hard to do both.
Yeah.
Depending on the kind of video they want. You know, if they want something very nicely edited and shot, it's like I can't do them at the same time because I can't be shooting your first kiss from this angle but then getting a video this angle. Like, I just can't.
It doesn't work.
You know?
Now, is it mainly by yourself when you do weddings, or?
Yeah, so I've always gone by myself. I've had a few second shooters come, just people who kind of want to get in that market. So I'm like kind of repaying it back. Like, you know, Chef and Davey took me under their wing.
That's cool.
I want to help other people who don't do weddings. Like, yo, come along, bro. Like, let me show you what I know now because I didn't do my first wedding by myself. Like, I went and did one as a test to get the hang of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, but mostly I do it by myself. Sometimes I try to link up with people who I know that do video. And so we both do it together. So it's a friend there with me kind of thing. Which now, you know, the main person I partner with is my podcast partner, Chava.
Yeah.
Because he does video. So like
Killer.
This year we're doing a lot of projects together because we're kind of like advertising ourselves as a package.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, I mean, that's just my boy.
Yeah.
You know, like we become really good friends. So I'm like, hey, bro, let me help you. You help me kind of thing. And I recommend him. He recommends me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's what we got going on. But yeah, man, it was like beginning of 2019. I'm like, okay, like I need to do this. You know, like I need to make the jump to see where this goes. So my plan was like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, probably leave my job next month, which would have been February. And you know, I had a conversation like with my girlfriend, my parents, like kind of like their opinion, and it's something where people are like, because I used to work at Patagonia, you know, amazing company to work for, you know, like great benefits, great pay, everything. So it's like when you go from a job like that to like you're gonna be self-employed, people look at you like, why?
You know, don't get it. They don't understand.
They don't understand that. Like, why are you gonna leave your job with good benefits and this and this and that? You know, and it was just, you know, if I don't try it now, like I'm just gonna get older and never go for it, and I don't want to do that. So my whole thing was like, I'll save up a little bit of money, have like a 3-month backup plan just to see how it goes. Like, you know, when you're gonna move out and you're like, I gotta have 3 months worth of rent. That was like my thought process of like
3 months.
I'm like, I'm gonna have my 3 months of bills covered in a savings, and if I need to dig into it, then I do. But let's see how this goes, because obviously when you're not at a job, like you have a lot more free time to focus on just marketing or shooting or doing anything, you know, because you're not restricted on your time.
But once you got that amount in your account, you're like, 3 months. This is it. This is when I'm jumping.
Pretty much.
Once it's a little nerve-wracking.
Dude, that sounds super nerve-wracking.
No, I was nervous, bro. I was mega nervous because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go from this really good job where I have potential to have growth and it's a great company. You know what I mean? But I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it. Yeah, amazing discounts. Amazing. And I had like a really cool set of coworkers. You know, like my group of my boss was super cool, super flexible with like, you know, if I ever needed to come in a little late because I had a shoot, he's like, dude, I'll cover it. Like, don't worry about it.
Cool. That's cool.
So it was just a lot of the reason why I didn't want to leave was because of them too. Like, I'm like, you're never gonna find a boss like that. You know what I mean?
No.
So, but you know, we had a conversation of like, what do you want to do with your photo stuff? And I'm
Right.
like, well, actually,
Yeah.
this is kind of where I'm at. And he was super cool. He's like solely supported. Like, yeah, man, I get it. That's your passion. Like, you should go for it. He's like, if you ever want to maybe come back, hit me up. We might have a part-time or something. So that was kind of nice reassurance.
That's cool.
Yeah.
As like a backup,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But obviously my goal was to not go back
Right.
and just be successful in what I'm doing. And so, yeah, man, like February rolled around and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Right.
And at first it was super nerve-wracking because when you're so used to working all the time and you're not at a like weekly schedule, you're like, what do I do?
Yeah, there's a lot of free time.
Mm-hmm.
I have that transition like every week or so. Like I go in and then I work for a little bit, but then like I'll have this time off. I'm like, what's next?
What do
I do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like, what do I do with my time all day? Like to feel productive,
Right.
There's only so much you can do when you're not working a normal job. Like, so I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do? So I started focusing on just marketing out there, doing more giveaways, like, reaching out to people who I had shot with, like, yo, I have this special going on. Like, do you want to do this? And that was starting to bring me more clientele because, my wedding season wasn't really going to start until like March. So I had like about a month of like, okay, then I do my first wedding and then they kind of go back to back from there. And then I don't know if it was just the timing or, like good luck or something. But at the end of February, I started getting booked super tough for like the next 3 months. A lot of like graduations,
Dude, that's so cool.
like everything. So I'm like, holy crap, dude, like I'm getting a lot of bookings, and since I had all this time off now, I'm like, I could fit them whenever. People were like, oh, do you have like a Monday at 11 a.m.? Yeah, I do.
Hell yeah.
And before that, I couldn't do that because I had a work schedule. And so I was just booking as much as I could. I'm like, I'm just going to take whatever comes at me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm really trying to do it this year. And that happened and I got super busy. My wedding season started. Wedding season that year was great. Like I ended up clocking out at my 15, which was the most weddings I had ever done.
Damn.
So I'm like, wow, this is cool. So then that opened me up to a totally bigger wedding market where I was getting more for the following year, which would have been last year. But then, COVID decided to happen.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, I did like a few backyard ones, but I think last year I was supposed to do like 23 and
what?
Yeah.
Wow. That's like that's twice a month. Almost.
Yeah. So that got, brought down a lot. I only did like maybe 5 like little backyard ones and stuff. All of them got moved to this year. A few were, canceled or they just, were like, hey, we're just going to do something small. So we don't want an entire wedding thing, which is understandable. Like I get it,
Absolutely.
So now like leading into this year, I got almost about 28.
Wow.
Total weddings.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
Dude,
thank you.
absolutely. Man.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping this is the year where shit gets better.
It will.
Yeah,
It
I'm really
will.
hoping. Like, I have my first wedding, which I'll have actually next Saturday. Well, I did like a backyard one like 2 weeks ago. So technically be my second one, but this is like the main like big one.
Yeah.
And then from there, they just kind of keep going throughout the year and stuff. And there's a few in the works of people like, oh, I might get you, or they're figuring out a date.
Right.
And I only really want to take like 2 more because I don't really want to do more than 30. Like that's kind of a lot.
Well, I mean, dude, there's 52 weeks in a year,
That's what I'm saying,
So it's like you're already booked more than half of the year.
Exactly. I'm
weekends.
like, exactly. I'm like, I don't want to, give away that many weekends because that's, usually when you want to hang out with your family or, like girlfriend kind of thing and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to, if I clock in at 30, that's cool with me. Like, I won't ask for more than that. Like, that's plenty.
Damn,
So, yeah, man, it kind of just went from there. And, like, obviously last year was scary, I think, for anyone who owns a business.
Absolutely.
Like, just the thought of, like, oh, there's a pandemic.
Right.
Like, what am I going to do? Like, I rely on my own self. Like, I don't know if I can even claim for unemployment benefits or whatever, like that kind of thing. But last year was actually, surprisingly, in my opinion, my biggest year in growth and just in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny,
Yeah.
Dude, it's interesting because we've had this conversation a lot, man. I think you guys actually mentioned it on your podcast as well, dude, that a lot of creatives, a lot of people who work for themselves and things like that, man, it's been like 2020 was like their biggest year.
Yeah.
And, also in Houston, like, man, like despite everything that happened last year, dude, like I think I've had my biggest year in 2020.
Yeah, me too.
It's crazy how that's happened, So I don't know, man. Like, on a side note, it makes me wonder what some people are doing. And I know, like, circumstantial things happen, but it's just like, You know, some people talk about being unemployment for a long time and things like that, but it's like, man, like even despite like the pandemic, man, I've always found ways to make money, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like the first, like, I would say like the first month or two, dude, were like super scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I
would
agree.
get home and I would like disinfect everything, bro. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
don't talk to me, don't say
Yeah,
nothing.
don't go
like,
outside,
don't go
nothing.
anywhere.
Yeah, and it was cool, man, because like even during that time, there was definitely some people who I would say like took advantage of it, man. Got some like really cool pictures and videos of like downtown, just everything shut down,
Yeah.
lights off, and everything, you know. And it's like it's one of those things that we probably won't see again, you know. And
No.
like even though it's not like that big of a deal, I think it's really cool.
It's still like a good way of documenting like something that hopefully doesn't happen again.
Or
Right.
anytime
know?
soon.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
anytime soon. Exactly. Like when are you really gonna see Reno like that again?
Right.
Besides last year when everything was at its peak and stuff.
Right.
And you know, like you said on our podcast, what we said was like, I think last year was the year where everyone's creativeness came out,
Right.
and they definitely, you know, dove deep into like, I want to do this as like a side thing, and then some
Right.
people had that side thing become their thing now.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, you know, I personally think there's two different mentalities when there's situations going like that, which is like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna settle for, you know, what's happening, or no, I'm gonna find a way to get out of that.
Yep.
You know, like I gotta like really make something happen, because I'm not just gonna settle for
Yeah.
unemployment or whatever it is that they're doing,
Right.
or I'm just gonna stay home and not do
Yeah,
anything.
I'm just
I'm
gonna wait
like,
for the stimulus check.
yeah, it's like, what stimmy?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
the what 1,200 one we got, and then what the
Yeah.
600 we just got. You know, like
It's
you
crazy.
just gotta, I don't know. I mean, like the whole term like built different
Right.
is like true in the sense of like some people's mentality is just
Right.
one way and some is not, you know.
Right.
And for me, like what happened was I was getting really scared, because people with weddings who were coming up were like, hey, I just can't do it, I gotta reschedule it for next year. And
Right.
you know, when you have this many weddings booked, you start to plan things for the year, like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I'm gonna do this and do that.
Yep.
But then when that is slowly going down, you're like, oh, what am I gonna do now? You know, I'm
Right.
like, I was counting on all these weddings to happen,
Right.
and all these things. And you know, the pandemic started kind of to happen around when I get really busy, which is like grad season.
Yep.
And that goes usually from like March to May.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all the people who had graduations photos are like, hey, I can't even be in town, like I had to come back to Vegas or wherever they're living.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I'm like, oh crap, like there goes a lot of my busy season.
Right.
So I'm over here like, do I just go get a part-time in the meantime, like
Right.
to do something on the side?
Right.
But then everything changed when UNR announced that they weren't gonna have ceremony.
Oh,
You know?
okay. Yep.
Yeah,
Because
that makes sense.
Yeah, because once UNR announced that,
Uh-huh.
all those people who were like, hey, I don't know if I'm gonna do them, were like, you know what? Can I book you but later on?
Right.
Because I still want my pictures. If I can't
Yeah.
go walk, I want pictures.
Absolutely.
That's true. I've seen that a lot. And the first time I seen it, I was like, wait a minute, what? It's not even like graduation season. But then it was like, okay, I see. Okay, you're backtracking. I mean, like, when you think about it, you know, 20, 30 years down the road, I mean, you still want to have the memory of it,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. So I had a lot of people who had moved stuff say, hey, I know I had told you I wasn't going to be home, but you know what? I'm going to be home in May or April, so can I just book it? I'm like, dude, I'll take it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Wherever you can
And
get.
so that happened, and then people started to book March, which that was the month I was just worried about. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do for March?
Yeah.
But then I had enough bookings March where I was totally fine. And then, you know, April rolled around, and I just got super busy for 2 months, because that's when
Right.
all the grads started coming. You know, and there was people
Ah.
still getting grad photos in like June,
Right.
because they're like, hey, I just can't make it back into Reno at this time, but I still want my pictures. So
Right.
I got very lucky in that sense, where
Yeah.
UNR announcing no ceremony helped me out a ton. And I'm like, okay, I got my busy season. So then I was just like, what am I gonna do for weddings? Because obviously they were all getting
Yeah.
moved.
Right.
And
right.
like I said, I only had like 5 or 6 that were like, hey, I'm just gonna do a little backyard, but I still love to have you here. I'm like, I
Yep.
mean, yeah, I'll be there. You know,
Oh, yeah.
obviously I didn't charge them as much as I would have because of something smaller.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you got to compensate with your couples too, you know. And yeah, man. But then I started having other thoughts of like, what else can I do besides like just take photos,
Right.
you know? And I had thoughts of like, oh, maybe I should dwell more into video, which I kind of did more for fun. But I definitely want to get more into that eventually.
Yeah.
But then I used to always want to make stuff out of something that people could have. So my first thought was, what if I made stickers?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I love stickers, bro. I'm a huge sticker fiend.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So around May, June, I was like, what if I made some stickers? Like, I wonder how they would do. You know, because I made some Reno ones over at the folks with Pitch Black Printing Co. Shout out to them. They're amazing people.
Yeah.
I love, you know, I love that company. I love the people there.
Mm-hmm.
Maurice and Megan, they're just amazing, you know? And so I went to them with an idea of like, hey, do you guys do stickers? And they're like, yeah, we do actually. And I'm
shit.
like, oh, sweet. So, you know, I kind of brainstormed with Maurice, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, what should we do? And I just wanted to start with a Reno one, you know. We live here, so I'm like, you know, that'd be kind of cool to have a sticker of Reno. Like, I haven't really seen anything like that.
Right.
So I just got like a standard little square with like a Reno shot. I think I made maybe like 50.
Yeah.
And I mean, they sold out within like a month and a half.
You
and
just
I'm
put
like,
them on Twitter, on Instagram.
yeah.
Okay.
And then people were like, oh, I'll take one or two or whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this is kind of cool, you know?
Yeah.
And then like I saw that, you know, they did decent, but not super well. So I was scared to just like go print out a ton.
Yeah.
Because the way their printing process works for stickers is like you get them in a bundle. Like you can't just go be like, hey, can you give me 10?
Right.
No,
It's not worth for
some
them
odd
to
number.
print it.
Yeah.
and do all
Yeah,
that.
it's like they
touching.
got like a 50, 100, 250, or I think 400
Right.
count, right? So I was like, well, I don't want to print 250 because I just don't think I'll sell that many.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I focused on just booking more things in the summer. I started doing like monthly sales, which I think a lot of people during the pandemic appreciated.
Yep.
Because I think through the pandemic, a lot of people were more at home with their families or whatever.
Right.
And they started kind of realizing like, why weren't we having photos taken?
Right.
You know, like a lot of people told me that last year, like, hey, we kind of just realized we had never had professional pictures taken.
Yeah.
So we reached out. Or, hey, we saw your special and we're like, oh, that's awesome. Like, we don't have to spend a ton of money, but we still get photos from someone we want photos from. And to me, that was just cool because I wanted people to get their picture taken.
Right.
Like, I understand, you know, like, doing a shoot is expensive.
Right.
But, you know, when you have a special, more people are going to jump in because they're like, hey, I still want to shoot with you, but I can't afford your normal package, but I'll take this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And I think that helped me out a lot too, because I started doing those in like May, and I mean I still do them to this day. Like I've just been doing it every month. I do like 5 slots, and you know people fill them up quickly.
Dude,
I'm like cool, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, it's awesome doing that because like to me it's like cool. I booked my 5 shoots, awesome, but they're just small, like 20, 25 minute.
Right.
And people when they show up, they're like, oh, I've been wanting to shoot with you for like years.
Yeah.
And I just been kind of waiting, and I saw your special, and I'm like, I gotta jump on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're just like super excited to finally get their photo taken, you know.
Right,
And that
right.
to me is just awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, absolutely.
you know, I
man.
love that people are so stoked to shoot with you.
Yep.
And you know, you meet them, they're these super nice people, and then after that, you just kind of make kind of like a friendship where they're
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna come back to you for this,
Right.
or I'm gonna recommend you to so and so. And it was just, you know, I think that got me so many other more clients too,
Yeah.
where people were like, yo, you should keep out a month because he's doing these monthly sales. And that's what people would do. Like the next
Right.
month they'd be like, oh, so and so told me about your special and I'm here now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dope.
Yeah.
It's the first. Where's it at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, I gotta get my slot. I was just waiting for the
Yeah.
post. I'm like, oh, sweet. Well, here you go. Like, let's go shoot this and that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that kept me very busy for all those months. And then around, I want to say September or August is when I wanted to do a sticker again.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like,
Was
okay.
that the Tahoe one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That was
yeah.
the Tahoe one.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, well, I did a Reno one. I want to change up the design. Like, I want to do something more creative.
Yeah. And you
Right.
designed this yourself, just
So
Okay.
I went to Pitch Black,
Okay.
and I asked Maurice, I'm like, would you be able to do a cutout of Lake Tahoe? And he's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, we have that in our file. I'm like, oh sick, dude.
Uh-huh.
So then now I was like, what picture do I use?
Right.
I have so many photos of Tahoe. I'm like, what's the one picture that will fit well in that design?
Yep.
So I mean, I kind of told Maurice like, hey man, before I give you anything, just let me brainstorm a bit and think of the photo. He had the cutout, so he's like, as soon as you have the photo, you bring it to me and we'll start on the printing, you know?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, damn, what picture do I use?
Yeah.
So I go through all my folders and I'm like, oh, re-editing some photos to make them look more like I
Yeah.
edit now. And I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, dude, I don't know. And then finally I landed on one that was always catching my attention. And I think I leaned towards that one because a couple of weeks before that, I had made prints of that picture and a ton of people bought prints of it. So I'm like, it seems like people just like this photo, you know? And when I went to Pitch Black, he put it in the computer and he kind of showed me what it looked, and I'm like, I think it shows everything about Tahoe in one photo.
Right.
You know, it was a picture of Sand Harbor.
Okay.
Like at an angle where you see the rocks, then you see the water, then you see the mountains, and then you see the sky.
Oh wow.
So it was like layered.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And I'm like, this kind of shows Tahoe in a picture. So I kind of like that. And it was a portrait style photo. So obviously the sticker was upwards. So it just fit in there.
Oh.
And I saw it and I'm like, I think that's the one, bro. Like, let's
Yeah.
just do it. And he's like, I think it looks great. You know, like I like all the layers and how much it shows from everything. So I'm like, sweet. So now how many do we make?
Yeah.
And he's like, you want to just do 50 like last time? And I'm like, I mean, obviously I had only sold so many before for the Reno. And I'm like, I think so, man. Like, I just want to see how it goes. And he's like, dude, just do the 100. Like, stop doubting yourself. You know what I mean? Like, this is a cool sticker. Like, people are going to like it. He's like, just make the 100. And if you don't sell them right away, I'm sure you'll sell them eventually.
Yeah.
Right.
And, it's technically cheaper the more you get.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a better deal to get more anyway.
Right.
And I'm like, well, all right, let's just do the 100.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I put in my order. He sent me the proof. And what I did is I took a photo of it on my computer, posted it on Twitter, posted it on Instagram, like, hey guys, I have these stickers coming. I'm taking pre-orders. So that's the way that I did it. In the sense of like, tell me how many you want beforehand,
Right.
and I'll put them away for you. And when they get here, I'll get them to you.
How do you get them to them? Do you ship them out?
So
Do
I
you-
was shipping some out, and I was delivering some and meeting with people for
Oh,
some.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I was just kind of doing all three.
Yeah.
Because some people, like, it was more convenient for me to go take them to their mailbox
Yeah.
than to wait for them to get off work. And then I
Yeah.
got to meet with people. Like, I have more
Yeah.
free time than them. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just going to go deliver.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And people were really cool about that. There was people like tipping me for that. Like, oh, thank you for dropping it off. Like,
That's cool.
I appreciate it. And so, 2 weeks later, like, so I made that post. And within like 4 or 5 hours, bro, I was out.
Whoa.
shit.
Nice.
Like, they sold out like that.
Okay.
And I was like, oh crap, dude, that's 100
Yeah.
stickers that just flew.
Yeah.
So I go and email Maurice.
Yeah.
Hey bro, can you make me another 50? And he's like, yes sir. So he puts in the order. I go and announce, hey guys, I made 50 more because of a high demand. 2 hours later, boom,
What?
gone. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wait for these stickers to come in.
Yeah.
So then I get them. I start handing them out, meeting for people. And now people are posting them everywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh,
That's
look,
cool.
and tagging me in it.
Yep.
So I'm getting flooded with messages in those 3 days where I was getting everyone everything. Did you make any more? Are you going to make any
Yeah.
more? And I'm like, oh, crap, dude.
That's
like,
cool.
there's a demand for this, you
Right.
know? And I kind of email Maurice and I'm like, hey man, I might just order more. And he's like, I saw that you sold out in like a day, bro. He's
Yeah.
like, how many more do you want? I'm like,
500.
I'm like, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And I also didn't want to just make them all the time. Like, I wanted it to be kind of exclusive. You know, that's why
Yeah.
when I sold the 150, I'm like, cool, that's it.
Yep.
You know? But then so many people were like, oh, this is so awesome. Like, I just want one. I want one. Or
Right.
they're like, my cousin I saw it on her story and I just want one. And
That's
I'm like,
cool.
okay, well, what do I do now?
Right.
So I made like a post, this is why I loved Instagram because you just interact with people so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I made a post saying, if I made more Tahoe stickers, will anyone wants them? 100% yes, like everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I think people really want more.
Yep.
So then I email Maurice. I'm like, hey, I'm going to make a post with another pre-order. I'm going to let you know how many orders come in and we'll do a quantity from there.
Smart.
And he's like,
Yep.
dope. Let me know when you can. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. I made that post. By the next day, late at night, I was at about 243.
Whoa.
In order, right?
What?
That's a good
So,
feeling.
Yeah. So I'm like, I guess 250 package, Maurice. And he's
Yeah.
like, sweet. So then
Yeah.
I ordered the 250 and I make a post like, hey guys, I'm sold out. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I might make more in the future, but I kind of won't anymore. So if you got
Right.
some, thank you. Like, I appreciate it. And so, yeah, man, I got the other 250 and sold damn near 400 stickers in Tahoe.
Damn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of opened my mind of like, this is a thing. Like, people like stickers.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just made them because I love stickers. And
Right.
I thought it was just cool for someone to have a sticker of mine. I never knew I was going to sell so many.
I didn't think
You
it was
know?
a thing until Dutch Bros did them, and people were
Yeah.
coming like on the first or at the end of the
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
and it's like a line around
It's
the corner.
crazy, dude.
Just
Yeah.
It's
because of
crazy how much
stickers.
people
It's
like
super
stickers.
cool.
Like,
Yeah.
people put them on their hydro, their computer, their car.
Right.
You know, I have my car filled with freaking stickers in the back windshield,
There
you
you
know?
go. Yeah.
Like, so it's just the thing. And after that, I'm like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, what other sticker do I do?
Yep.
So then I wanted to do another Reno one, but not the same as the one before.
Right.
So I don't know if you've seen it, that Reno photo I have with the drone from the top at night.
Yep.
Yeah. So everyone loves that picture, right?
Yeah.
So I go to Maurice maybe like 3 weeks after the Tahoe one, and I'm like, hey, dude, like, I want to do a Reno one. And me and him are like brainstorming. And I was like, how about if we do something with like the Reno lettering, but the photos inside? And he's like, I can make that font. So right then and there, he does the Reno letters, like how fat they are and everything.
Yep.
And he puts the picture inside. I'm like, oh, that's it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, that looks tight. And he's like, let's do it. So, the next, I think the 2 days after that, my girlfriend and I were going to Oregon, just for a little trip. And so when I'm out there, he sends me the proof. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, dude, that looks amazing. Like, I'm so stoked. Like, I loved it from the beginning. And I remember we were about to start driving from the northern coast down to like South Oregon where Airbnb was and stuff.
Nice.
And I wasn't really gonna have service, so I'm like, I'm gonna post them now. I'll see my messages later.
Yeah.
So I go, same thing as the Tahoe one. Hey guys, I'm taking pre-orders. So this time I just did pre-orders before I ordered anything.
Right.
Because I'm like, okay, people already know that I make stickers, and everyone was always asking me like, when are you making another one? When are you making another one? I'm like, it's in the works, guys. Like, hold on.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I'm gonna make a pre-order. We'll see how it goes, and then I post it. About 2 hours later, we stop at a gas station, and I get service. I go on Twitter and Instagram, bro.
Flooded.
I'm blown up, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess I gotta wait till the Airbnb to go through all these.
Damn.
And I told my girlfriend, like, look, and she's like, holy crap, like that's so many
crazy.
people. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to spend a little bit of time on my phone when we get to the Airbnb going through all this.
That's a lot of work. I mean, I feel like at that point it's like website, just like Shopify and like post it and then orders, money that way, and then it's
which is kind of what I want to do now for things like later on. That way I don't have to physically go through everything myself.
That makes sense, yeah.
Because that is a lot easier to go through like Shopify and stuff. And so, yeah, man, we get to the Airbnb, which is like another hour away. So then all these more messages come in. And obviously, as people are getting on Instagram, they're seeing it.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to see how many I have by tomorrow morning. Right? So as messages are coming in, I'm just going on my notes, putting people's name, the quantity. And, I'm like, okay, cool. By the next morning, I tally everything up. And I'm damn near at like 470 stickers.
Whoa.
And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
This is 2 days after you posted.
Like
day
almost
two.
a day and a half in.
Whoa.
And I'm like, well, the largest quantity they have is 500. So I'm like, I'm clocking it out at 500.
Yeah.
Right.
So I go on Instagram and say, hey guys, thank you, I'm sold out. Like, I'm not taking any more orders. So I mean, Maurice, hey bro, the 500, and he's like, damn man, that's awesome. Like, let's do it. And yeah, bro, 2 weeks later I get them. Same thing that happened with the Tahoe ones, where people are now seeing them for the first time. And I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, because like the first time that you put it out, I mean, it was just solely your post and people who were like directly interacting
and then
with
when
it.
people get it, they're sharing it to their followers, and that's like that little chain reaction of social media.
Now, do you put your own little Instagram?
Yeah,
on
so
it?
they all have like a little handle. I actually have some in my car. Remind me later to give you guys some.
Yeah.
So it has my little Instagram handle on it. Nothing like too in your face, but it's there.
Cool.
So people see it and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so yeah, man, like I'm like, okay, well, do I make more? Or just kind of leave it at that, and I just had so many people asking that. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna make 150 more, and that's it.
Right.
I'm never making that sticker again.
Right.
Like that's it. But then people were also asking about the Tahoe one,
Right.
and I'm like, oh yeah, people still want that one. So I just made 2 orders of a Reno and Tahoe. I think I got like 150 of Reno, 100 of Tahoe. Tahoe one's all sold out. And then the Reno ones, I was left with maybe like 45, which is a little handful I still have now. But then I posted that I had those because they've been in my room.
Yeah.
Like the other ones all sold,
Right.
but those been in my room. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't need 45 stickers.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I already have a few extras from before anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I posted them, and people bought almost like half of them already.
It's also a cool way to like get out your business as
Yeah,
well.
it
Like
is.
it's like, hey, I shoot photos. I don't have a business card, but like here's a sticker.
Yeah.
That's way cooler.
Yeah.
And then they put it somewhere, and then that's super cool.
I think it's really cool, man, because like like you're saying, like people like the landscape photos that you've taken, and then it brings them back to your page where it's like, oh shoot, now I can get pictures taken of myself too,
exactly.
you know? So it's a really good way of doing that, man. And even with like the way that you would post it out before you even bought them, man. So I had read a book called The Lean Startup, and it was about how to start a business without having your product or anything, right? So I always tell people that same thing where it's like, where they'll come back and say, well, I don't know if it'll really sell. Well, it's like, post it, and if people get back to you, then there's a market for it. If not, then why waste your money on it?
Yeah, exactly.
But doing something like what you're doing, I mean, that's exactly it, man. And obviously, there's a demand for it, dude. But what I think is really cool about that whole thing is like, to me, it reminds me of like Supreme, where it's just limited quantities. It's a one-time drop. Yeah. But Supreme also has lineups of other things that you could get year round all the time. But that once in a lifetime thing, dude, I think super cool, man. It's like,
it's funny you say that trending. Because that's kind of where I got that idea from. Like, I'm very into like streetwear and stuff. I don't buy Supreme, but I'm very into like other brands, and I've noticed that when they do limited drops, like even when I see it, I'm like, dude, I should get that, because that's not gonna come out again. So you're just so like, oh, dude, I need to get that, and that's kind of where I got that mindset of like, what if I just make them limited and I'm not just making them all the time as people ask, and then people are like, oh crap, like I want one before they're gone, because then I'm not gonna get it.
Dropping this like clothing brand where it's like $400 for a
it's
sweater,
just stickers,
exactly,
anyone can buy stickers. So I mean, man, I ended up just selling way more than I ever thought I would, and now I'm just working on a next one, which, I mean, whatever, I'll spoil it. It's a Nevada shape cutout. So that's my next idea. Which people were asking me, like, are you gonna make a Nevada one? I'm like, yep. I just need to find the right photo. And it's kind of hard to find a picture that describes Nevada in a shot. So that's where I'm working on right now. But there will be more stickers down the line. Like, I'll probably make more Reno ones and more Tahoe ones eventually. Because people are still asking me, like, you're gonna make more? Like, I love the other two that I got. Like, But then later in last year, I made hoodies. I don't know if you saw those.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
So I made hoodies of the Reno design. Just a black hoodie with the Reno on here. Right? Because I've always loved clothing brands, like street clothing brands, and way before photography, I used to always have this dream of like starting up a brand. But I just didn't know how to go about it. I didn't have a company name to use or anything like that. And then now that technically I'm my brand, I'm like, why not just make something out of that? Like, now I'm not trying to start a clothing line. It's just like, hey, here's my picture, my design. You want to rock it? Here you go. And I mean, I made some. I think I sold maybe like 25 or something. But it was just a cool, like, hey, people still got some. Like, that's dope. I was more excited for people to wear it. I'm like, what if I'm walking around and I see that hoodie and I'm like, yo, dude, I made that.
Exactly.
Like, that's tight. Like, I've seen people with my stickers on their cars when I'm driving around. I'm like, hey.
Such a good feeling.
I'm like, that's sick, dude. So, like, sometimes I spot it out and I'm like, that's so cool that there's that out there, of like, and like you said, it's just free marketing as it is, because people see that and like, yo, where'd you get that? And then they're like, look, this is his handle. Then they go see what else I do, and then I get clients from that. I've gotten clients through stickers, bro. Like, I believe it. Like, I kid you not, I'm not shit. I'm like, how'd you hear about me? I'm like, so I saw this sticker that so and so got. They gave me your handle. I reached out to you. I realized that you do a lot of portrait stuff, so I wanted my picture taken. I'm like,
that's so cool.
Holy crap.
Yeah, there you go.
That sticker got it.
Yeah, I'm like, did you look at that? Isn't that funny?
Fuck yeah,
so,
dude.
Yeah, man, I mean, I think if I have to give an overall sum of last year, I think it was a great year. For me, I cannot complain about it. Obviously, it was not the year I planned, and there's unfortunate things going on. But as a creative and a business owner, I think it was my biggest growth for sure.
Absolutely.
And I just think that has to do with the fact of, like, I didn't want to stay not doing anything just because there's a damn pandemic going on. And I think it brought out my creative side and other things and other projects that I always wanted to do, but I just figured this is the year to do it. Like, why not? So, yeah, I mean, for me, man, on that side, 2020 was amazing. Like, I booked even more weddings for this year, so now we're looking bright at this year. And I mean, man, I can't complain. 2020 was cool.
And like, when you think about it too, with what you're saying too, is like, a lot of people that we know, man, ended up having like 2020 being like their biggest growth year. But it's just like, it kind of, people not being able to go out, not being able to watch sports. I mean, not really having a whole lot to do other than TikToking and being on your phone, like the people who are already pushing towards doing something, it only pushed them that much further. You know, you had a lot of free time, no distractions. So either it's like, if you're already on that path, more than likely you're just gonna get there quicker. But if you weren't, then no.
Yeah.
But dude, like me and this guy had conversations of like, dude, the pandemic's coming, dude. Like they're talking about shutting shit down, dude. What should we do? Like as far as like how are we gonna make money? Like you know, what can we do? What do people need? What type of services can we do? And even like months down the road, like once the pandemic starts to kind of clear out, where are we gonna be at with it? You know?
You gotta look for a long term.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So would you say that with like, so to back up a little bit also with what you were saying, at Pitch Black, you had also done like an art show or like
a couple years back.
Yeah, so was that like, so you had done that prior to the sticker thing?
Yes,
then, right?
So I did that art show in early 2018. It was in April of 2018 when I did that art show. And the way that came about is the first time I met Megan and Maurice is when they were still at their old location over by Reno High. And there was an artist doing an art show there who hired me to shoot his art show. Right?
Okay.
A guy that does a ton of like spray can art and stuff. And he just found me on Instagram and he's like, hey, dude, like, would you be down to shoot my art show? Like, I want to get some cool photos. I'm like, yeah, totally. Like, that'd be fun, you know? And he was like, I'll hook you up with like a piece, like, you know, if you want. I'm like, dude, I won't even charge you. Just give me a cool art piece and I'm straight. And he's like, all right, cool. Because I had never done anything like that. So I was just trying to do something different. And so he had his art show. I was just there kind of documenting it for him and stuff. And at the end of the art show, Megan is like, why don't you do one? You know? And I had just never thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that'd be fun. Like, why not? And obviously, they what they do is they have an artist a month. So they were booked out about a year. And they're like, hey, we could get you in. Like, because this was in 2017 when I did that shoot. And she's like, we can get you in like April next year. And I'm like, let's do it. That gives me a lot of time to go get new photos and just, you know, find a bunch of landscape stuff that I want to do. So that's what I did, man. Leading up to that, I just took a little bit more trips outside of Reno and, you know, just try to get cool landscape pictures to showcase. A lot of the pictures I hadn't posted. So it was like, if you come and see us, it's going to be your first time.
That's cool.
I like made a bunch of canvases, bigger prints, smaller prints, like that kind of thing. And so, yeah, the art show came by. They were super cool. They're super, like, helpful with getting it out there. Like, they advertise it on their page a lot. And then they made me flyers for free just kind of go put around. So I was, like, handing these out to people at shoots. Like, hey, I have an art show coming up. And they're like, oh, dope. You know what I mean? And, you know, putting them in, like, coffee shops or whatever. And so that just kind of got it out there a lot. And I would post about it maybe twice a month leading up. Like, hey, guys, don't forget it's coming up. And, yeah, man, so the date came. Super big shout out to my girlfriend too, because she helped me with the setup. She brought like treats for people. Shout out to my girl Ashley. And she like, you know, just brought little treats for people to be there, just make it nice and welcoming and stuff. And so yeah, man, I just filled up their walls pretty much with stuff. And you know, a bunch of my close friends came. There was people I had never met that came and got to meet me for their first time. So I'm like, hey, hi guys, like, nice to meet you. You know what I mean? And they're like, yeah, I've been following you for a while, but like, you know, this is cool. Like, I wanted to come by and, you know, we had, do you know who Nameets is?
Yeah. Dude, come on, bro. I love the burritos.
Nameets is fire. Absolute fire. So they were actually outside, like, serving food, too.
That's super
because
cool.
what they do is for every art show, they pick a food truck. And I love Nameets. So I told Megan and Maurice, I'm like, you think they'll come? And they're like, oh, yeah, like 100%. I'm like, yo, bring them through. I got my burrito for free and everything. It was super cool. So there was people, like, getting food and just kind of watching. It just felt really cool. You know, like, I'm like, this is tight, bro. Like, it felt like when you see artists do big galleries where people are just kind of coming in like, hey, how are you? Or looking at your stuff. And I'm like, this is a whole movie, bro. like, that's crazy.
It's a different feeling for sure.
Yeah. So there was people coming and buying canvases, and there's people buying prints and smaller prints. And some people were like, I just kind of wanted to come by. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't got to buy anything. Like, just come through. You know what I mean? Like, I even told people in my post, I'm like, I don't care if you come and don't buy anything. Just come and say what's up. Go check it out. You know, like, it's not about making the money. It's just, this is cool, you know? And fortunately, thankfully for all the supporters that I have, I damn near sold out.
That's awesome.
Like, I pretty much sold out the entire gallery, which is nuts. I sold every big canvas I had printed. I had maybe just a few prints left. And the way they do it is that after your show, they keep it there for about a month. So then people can still kind of come in and be like, oh, I want that if it's not sold, you know. People didn't take things on the spot unless there were the smaller prints, but the things on the wall, they had to stay. And I would just kind of tell people like, yo, in a month you can come get it, or I'll go give it to you or something, you know. And so there was still people coming in and buying stuff. So then when the month came up, Megan's like, this is what I have left. And it was basically nothing. So I was like, oh, dope, dude, like that's awesome, you know. And obviously, you know, for them using your space, you pay like a certain percentage to the gallery and stuff. But I mean, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I would sell so many, you know, and it was just cool. So after that, I kind of told them like, hey, let's put in the works for another one. And that was going to be, I kind of told them I was going to wait a little more to try to get more things. And then we were going to do it at the start of 2020, but then with the pandemic, that kind of didn't happen. They were just not having art shows and everything. But I do want to do another one again. I need to talk to them more about that, of like how far out they're booked and stuff like that. But it's definitely, I want to do a brand new one and try to bring a whole different concept into it, you know? Because the last one was just a bunch of landscape photos that I thought were pretty, which I can do landscape again, but just not the same photo, like a different, obviously my style has changed a lot since then, so the photos can look different. But yeah, man, it's an awesome experience. It's super cool.
That's exciting. Can't wait for the next one.
No, yeah. I mean, when it happens, I'll put it out there.
Absolutely.
Man. No, it's awesome, man.
And it's cool too, dude, because like, you know, you're talking about how your edit styles definitely changed, man. And you know, I've known you since you started with it, man. And it's like, it's a huge difference, you know. Now, like the way that your stuff is just crisp, you know, like the tones are perfect. Like,
thank you, dude.
Is that a style that you go for? Like, is that your?
Yeah. So I mean, my editing style has changed a lot in the past, 5 years. I went from like editing every photo differently to trying to find my own look, and then that led into certain looks, but I just wasn't that happy. And you know, it's like an artist, you're constantly changing it until you feel like, oh, this is more what I like. And I think the style that I have now adapted in like October of this past year.
Oh damn.
Where I just went from having more of a moody look to like, I'm just gonna make it nice and crisp and very natural. You know, I always wanted my photos to, you can tell they're edited, but not super. You know, and I was just always trying to find that. And then eventually, you know, I use Adobe Lightroom. I eventually found the tools I needed in there where I'm like, this is the look. You know? So then that's just what I'm keeping now. But I'm sure down the line I might change it again.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think evolving. A lot had to do with changing gear.
So that was gonna be my next question, man, because like you're the only person that I know that has a Fujifilm
Gang.
Man. I was like, what? Like, dude, I thought they just did the 35 millimeter freaking, film stuff, dude. I didn't know that they did like
digital
DSLRs.
Cameras. So, funny story about that is, I mean, I've always been a Canon shooter. I was like Canon die hard. You know what I mean? I had nothing but Canon gear. I love Canon. I still do. You know, they're an amazing company. But when was it? I think it was in early 2020. I went on a small little trip to Yosemite with some like photographer friends out there, and one of them just had a tiny little X100F Fuji, right? It's just a small little camera, fixed lens, you can't take it off. It's like a 22 millimeter lens, like 2.0 aperture, and he was just shooting everything on that. And I saw his Instagram, I'm like, holy crap, like you take your photos on this? And he's like, yeah, dude, I shoot it in JPEG and I take it a bit into Visco and tweak it out a bit, and that's it. And his photos were amazing.
Damn.
You know, like, I'm like, holy crap, dude, like that little thing is that good? And he's like, I just loved it because it was so minimal. And it was basically like holding a film camera. Like that little camera is so hands-on.
It has that feel.
Oh, you have little knobs and everything. You twist yourself for your ISO, your shutter, and all that. It's not like a Canon DSLR where you just go in the menu and you do it. So I just like he's let me borrow it, and I'm like, can I just, hold on to that? Let me see how it is. I was shooting. I'm like, this is dope, dude. I'm like, holy, because I mean, I've always loved film. Like, I think it's awesome. I'm like, this is basically like shooting film, but on digital, you know? And it was just, I love the hands-on part about it. I'm like, this is dope. Like, I really like this.
Open you are with it. It's like, hey, like, let me see this, Like, let me go, shoot that, place at the...
No, I mean, around that time, too, I kind of wanted to just do something different, too. And I'm like, well, maybe... I might have to change gears. I've been shooting on Canon for almost 5 years. Like, maybe it's just time to switch it up. And so, after that trip, it was always in the back of my head. I'm like, like should I look more into Fuji? And then I think in like September, August, I finally saved up enough money and I bought the little 100F. And it came in, I was super stoked. I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I want to go shoot. So I made a post about like, hey guys, I need a model. I just want to go shoot a concept. And someone volunteered. We went up to the Mount Rose fields up there. And this is when it was still super green out there, and I just took that little camera. I didn't take anything else. I'm like, I'm just going to take my little X100F. And that whole night before, I was like going on YouTube looking up like how to use it and everything. And I'm shooting the shoot, and I realized that Fuji colors are like undefeated. Like their coloring system is insane just through camera. You know what I mean? Because they use the same thing they use for their film through their digital. So their color palette is just amazing, dude. Like, I used to think Canon had good colors. Nah, bro, Fuji.
Really?
Like, Fuji has colors.
That you can adjust, or that's like point and shoot?
So the thing I love about Fuji the most is that they're super customizable. Like, you can change everything yourself. You can change how green your greens are in camera. So that way, when you take it into Lightroom, you just do whatever you got to do. But I've always, even in Canon, I used to always try to get a photo how I would have edited it. So I would play with my white balance and everything. Because one, it just makes your editing process like better. And then you just want it to be as natural through camera as it is. So Fuji really allowed me to do that. And I'm like, this is dope. Like, I really like the colors. I love the feel of it. I love how compact and small their cameras are. Like, when you got those big DSLRs. I already got back problems, bro. Those things were not helping me, dude. Like, I remember like a bit before I got that Fuji, I went to a chiropractor just to get checked out. And he's like, what do you do, bro? Like, what's your job? And I'm like, well, I'm just a photographer. And he's like, how do you carry your gear? I'm like, over the shoulder right here. And he's like, yeah, you got a lot of tension up here, like around your neck and back area. He's like, how much gear are you working with? At the time, I had like my Canon 60 Mark II with like a battery grip and a fat lens. I'm like, at least like 10, 11 pounds or something. And he's like, yeah, that's kind of getting to you. And I'm like, oh crap. So, pop my back like no other. And he's like, you might want to start coming in more often because you got some back problems, bro. I was like, oh crap, okay.
Like 20 years down the road, man, you have a hunchback.
Man. I was like, holy crap, bro, my posture's already crap, and that's just not helping,
What camera do you use now?
So my main body is a Fuji X-T3. Which is more of like their high-end like digital.
So do they go by like a crop lens or?
Yeah. So Fuji bodies are all crop. Which is one thing I was at first I didn't know
what does that mean.
So crop sensor means like, how do I say it? So, you got your full frame and your crop sensor. When you take a photo with a full frame, it's almost like you have like a box. Right? So let's say this is the full frame box. The crop sensor is like a little smaller. Right? And that means that's the dimensions and pixels you get in your picture. So full frames are really good if you're printing big stuff because you get the entirety of the image as pixelated as you can get. Like if you're blowing up billboards, you gotta have a full frame. Like there's no way you can probably get away with a crop sensor unless the crop sensor is like super advanced. But that's pretty much it. Like that's kind of the only difference, really. And so I'm like, I'm not really printing anything like that. Like I print stuff for clients, but it's nothing like huge. So I'm like, I'm fine with a crop sensor. So pretty much after I did that little shoot with the X100F, I don't know, man. I fell in love with it. I was like, I haven't had this much fun shooting on something in a long time. And it kind of sparked like I think I needed that. Because I was just kind of getting so tired of the same old. And this whole new experience was like, this is tight. Like, I think I just switched to Fuji. And so the next day, bro, I go to Action Camera over here. And I talked to this guy named Brian. If he, for some reason, watches this, shout out to Brian. He's a big film photographer. And every time I would go in there, he was just super helpful. And he's like, I told him, I'm like, what do you think about Fuji's? He's like, dude, underrated. Like their digital cameras, underrated. So I was looking at the X-T3 the night before, like on YouTube, because I was just kind of looking up cameras.
And that's the one you would recommend if someone wants to get into Fuji?
I don't know about as a startup. I think if you are a photographer already and you know how to use your gear, then yes. But if you're just new to it and you kind of just are getting into cameras, maybe start with like, they just released a newer one called the XS10, which is not as advanced, but it's still super good body. Or you could start with like the X100F that I have. It's just like a smaller little camera where you get all the basics of how Fuji works and stuff. But if you already know how to use DSLR, then the X-T3 is great. It's just super well rounded. There's the X-T2 and X-T1 also. You know, so anything along those lines would be good to get into it. But yeah, man, the next day I go to the store and I'm like talking to him and I just love what it's about. And I'm like, you know what, dude, screw it. I'm just going to get it. So I bought the package and then I sold all my Canon stuff. I only kept one little mirrorless camera. This is kind of more for video, like a little blogging camera. I think it's like the something 50. I forgot the name of it because I haven't used it in so long. But I sold, I used to have Sigma lenses because I've always been a big Sigma person. I just sold all those and I used all that money just to pay for the camera, and I used it to get a Sigma lens before my camera now. And that's just kind of what I've been rocking. Like my main setup is the X-T3 with an 18 to 35, which because of the crop sensor is like a 24 to 50 millimeter. And that's just the lens I use for basically everything because it's just really well rounded.
Do any of the Canon or like Nikon, do any of the lenses work with Fuji?
Yes, so you can get adapters, which is what I had to do. I had to buy an adapter to fit that Canon Sigma lens because I bought the Canon version. But yeah, there's adapters you can get, and obviously, I mean, they're expensive, but if you want a good one, you got to pay money for it. You know, like if you don't want an adapter that's going to make your lens super slow or not focus well. So that's what I did. And then I bought like a native Fuji lens, which is the equivalent of a fixed 35. It's like a Fuji 2.0 35 millimeter. And it's just a tiny little thing, bro, like this big. Because Fuji is huge on very minimal. Their batteries are like that big. Right? Their bodies, my X-T3 is almost the size of my X100F. And it's just a tiny little thing, right? I mean, it's an amazing camera. It's just, they're super compact. And then the only reason my camera looks big is because of that fat Sigma lens. If I just had like a Fuji lens on it, you would think it's like a film camera. Because they just are so minimal.
And they shoot film as well.
Yeah, so it's pretty much, they have this feature called film emulation, which you basically have stock film looks in your camera that you can shoot digitally. But then recently, I discovered that they have what is called a film recipe, which is where you can make a very famous film look in your camera and shoot it like that.
Interesting.
So, you have like your Fujinon, like ISO 100 film. You got like your Portra 400, your Portra 160. You can do all that in your camera and you just go on your settings. And I actually downloaded an app that Fuji made where it's just a bunch of film recipes. And you just have to shoot those images in JPEG because if you shoot it in RAW, it doesn't apply those settings. So the thing with Fuji is that their JPEGs are almost the same quality as a RAW because they strive on you getting that custom look. So they make their JPEG as high top notch as they can.
Hey, Fuji's gonna have to pay you for all this, man.
Dude, sponsor me.
Sponsorship, bro.
Are you kidding me? I would love that, man. No, it's an amazing company, dude. Like it's awesome.
So is it the same like file length, like a RAW versus
pretty much. It's almost the same as big
JPEG.
Yeah, it's just it's like the finest JPEG you'll ever get.
That's so cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's nuts. So I recently started to play with the film. It looks, dude, like you're just shooting a film stock. In there alone you can add noise and everything in the camera, which is what the film recipe tells you to do to get the same look. And a lot of times, I've gone and played with my little X100F and my X-T3 with film recipes lately. And I put it in Lightroom. I'm like, I don't need to do anything. Like this already looks like a film photo. At the most, I just maybe bring down the shadows and the highlights. And I don't touch it. That's just straight out of camera. You know what I mean? That's no post-processing. Like, yo, this is how it looked in my camera, and that's what it is.
And it's just an app. You drag and drop it pretty much.
So
your iPad or something.
Yeah, like on my iPhone, it's called Fuji Recipes. And I mean, you can get a paid version where you pay like $5, and then you get all the recipes unlocked, which I did because it's just $5. And basically, there's a big list there of all the recipes you can get. And I love Portra film, so I've been doing a lot of the 160 and 400 look. And I mean, I haven't really posted many, but I'm gonna start experimenting with it more and doing maybe more like creative shoots with that film stock. Instead of going to buy film, I can just do it on my camera.
Right.
You know, it saves you money because film's expensive.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for like people who don't know also, man, with film, so when it was just strictly SLRs before like digital cameras, so with film, you wouldn't be able to adjust the ISO. So you would have to have a different type of film for the different ISOs.
Yeah.
So like now how you would just change it, you'd go from 100, 200, 300, whatever it is that you feel that you actually have to have. Now, or back in the day, you would actually have to actually swap out the film itself.
Yeah, you'd have to get a roll of 400 ISO, and until it's done, you can swap it out again.
Right.
The advantage with Fuji Digital is you can adjust the ISO as it is. Like if you want to shoot it brighter or darker, who's stopping you? You know, it's just you're gonna still have every other look in it. It's just that's just the look. So it's awesome, man. I think it definitely made me a lot happier. As far as like photography goes, and just being able to be more creative and so hands-on. It's just like a totally different experience. Like it definitely takes you some time to adjust from like a Canon DSLR to Fuji because they're so like hands-on that you really got to do your research. You know what I mean? But once you figure it out, it's so fun to just play with all the features and make everything look exactly how you want. You know, I think my editing style goes into that because I have the photo look almost exactly how I want already. So when I take it in Lightroom, I just lightly touch it up. And it's just that's just what I do it. So
no, that's totally great, man. That's cool because I think that you definitely want to do a lot of those things in your true setup. I don't know. For me, I think it always looks better too when you get that natural look and you get it through the camera versus like post editing, man. It's definitely harder to be able to mimic something in real life, or be able to mimic it in Lightroom versus doing it in real life. Like, it's just a different feel, and you could tell the difference between what's been like over edited in post production versus what was actually done in time. So what would you say, man, for like someone who's wanting to get into photography? What would they start off with? Like, what's a good camera? Where should people start? Like,
I think start with your phone. First of all, there's a nice camera on every phone nowadays, whether you got an Android or an iPhone. That's a great starting point because iPhones have very flat images, and iPhones do a lot for you as far as like compensating the photo and all that, and that's a great starting point to kind of get a look of dynamic range and how an image is gonna look. Start with an iPhone, get a little editing app like Visco, or you can get like Lightroom Mobile. Start playing through that. Once you start kind of shooting more on it and you're like, I need something a little more advanced, go to like a startup DSLR. You know, like you don't need to go drop $3,000 on a camera because that's the biggest cap of like, oh, you need an expensive camera to take pictures. No. You need an eye for it. You need a good editing style, and you need good lenses more than a body. To be honest, the lens is more important in my part. You know, like I think having a great lens on even a stock camera like that makes a huge difference. You know, so go get a little starter package at like Costco or Sam's Club, like that little $300, $400 with the stock lenses, and just learn how to use the DSLR. From there, if you want to start with Sony, Nikon, Fuji, Canon, that's just your personal preference. You know, I think every camera is good at a lot of things. I think personally Canon is the most well-rounded. Like they kind of just do everything. So Canon is a great starting point. I used to always recommend Canon. I think I still do to this day just because they're so like flexible. So start off with something like that. Once you start getting the hang of, I like to shoot this more, I like to shoot, let's say, wide angle or close up, then you start getting different lenses based on your style. And then if you just feel like you need a better camera because you want to print stuff big, or that camera has certain features, then upgrade to a full frame and just kind of go from there. But I think the best camera to start with is the one you always have on you, which is your phone. That's true, man. That's a very good point, man. And going back to what you were saying too with like the lenses, when I had first started shooting, man, I bought a Canon T3, and of course I was using the stock lens that came with it. And then I ended up getting an L series lens for a super good price. And dude, just that lens alone amplified the quality. It makes such a difference, bro. It's so crazy. Once you get like a prime lens on your camera, you're like, holy crap. Like you just see the difference immediately. Like the feel, the depth, and like the bokeh and everything is just nuts. You know, like, and if people don't know what bokeh is, you know, when you focus on someone and the background's blurry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing that, like, it's hard to get your iPhone to do that.
Yeah.
There's no,
like iPhone has
yeah.
portrait style, but it's just not the same.
No.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm saying, like, once you kind of get the hang of what an iPhone can do, then just get a little camera. And,
yeah, absolutely, man. You know, and that's just like that same thing, you know, where once you get your feet wet and you're like, you know, I actually do like it. You know, it's something I want to get into. And, you know, like before the podcast too, what you were saying, I mean, there's a ton of photographers, you know, so, and there's many different styles, man. You could go from all types of different types of landscapes to, you know, if you want to do weddings, portraits, or even just doing like senior pictures, things like that.
Anything.
Yeah, you know, anything, even cars, man.
Be
you know,
open to it.
There's markets.
Get
for
your feet
all
wet
of
with it.
I think my absolute favorite thing of photography is that there's no rules to it.
Yeah.
Right.
You can literally shoot whatever you want. If that's what you want to shoot, more power to you.
Yep.
You want to shoot only black and white? Go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
There's people who shoot freaking Legos.
Yeah,
Right.
I was about to say
There's a photographer
figures,
I follow that styles Legos, and it's amazing. Like
Yeah.
their photos are sick, dude.
Right.
And I'm like, it's just you can shoot whatever you want. You know, like if there's people who like very creepy unorthodox photos, like more power to you to that. Like that's dope. You know, like whatever you like to shoot. Don't let it become like, oh, I want to shoot this because I want to make money.
Right.
You know, and this is the advice I give everyone who comes to me when they want to start. I'm like, do not get into it to make money.
Or anything, really.
Or period.
Yeah.
You should never get into anything as a hobby or something to make money, because when you don't, you're gonna drop it.
Yep.
Right.
Because you're going in there for the wrong reason. You know.
And once a hard time hits.
Yeah. Once you're struggling, you're like, nah, this isn't
not worth it
I
anymore.
wasted my time and my money, and I'm like, nah, bro, you should go into it because you have a passion for that.
Yeah.
Whether it's photo, video, drawing, painting, whatever you're doing, like you should get into it because you like to do it.
Yeah.
And if in the future the opportunity comes to make a living off of what you love, then go for it. You know, like don't think that, oh, I got into it as a hobby but I can't make money out of it now. But it's like, no, don't you want to do what you love anyway?
Right.
Like that was my thought process of like, if I can do this full time, why would I not?
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing what I love every single day, and that was the main goal, period, is like to wake up every single morning and be like, oh, I'm so excited to go work.
Right.
You know, like that's the dream, you know?
Yeah.
So
It really
it's just awesome that something that started as a hobby gets you there. And, you know, if you don't want to do it full time and you just like working somewhere else because you enjoy that job, do it as a side hustle or something, you know, or like as a side thing just for fun.
Just like the stickers you're making.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love stickers, bro. Now I'm making stickers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
cool.
become a sticker maker for a living,
Yeah.
but it's like I just like doing them.
Yeah.
And if I make a couple bucks out of it, cool. But if not, I just enjoy having it out there, you know?
And it's cool too, because like, you know, another thing too, man, that you're saying that like, you know, all these things just kind of came natural to you when you were first, when you took that leap and you're like, you know, I'm just going to quit my job and this is what I'm going to do full time, you know? And it was like, it just came to you. And one of the things too that I always tell Houston too is like, whenever I'm trying something, man, and I'm like, you know, I'm going to see where this ends up going, most of the time it happens so natural without me really pushing it. And it's like, okay, like for me, that's a sign that like, dude, I just got to go all in on it, man, because it definitely makes me believe that when something is meant to be, it comes to you really natural and it comes without any hardship, or it's just easy. And not saying that like, you know, as soon as you come into a hardship, like, you know, oh, I'm just going to quit. This wasn't for me.
No, don't
like
do that.
You know, but it's that feeling where you get where it's like, you finally decide to take that leap and it's like, all these doors start opening for you now. So it totally makes sense for me.
If it happens naturally or not, I mean.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way to get there somewhere, if it just kind of flows in.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not really forcing it, and it can take you a year, 2 years, months. Like it's different for everybody. You know, like one thing I tell people is like, hey, if you're getting into photography to try to be a full-time photographer, like don't expect it to happen overnight.
Yeah.
Like it takes work, you know what I mean? Like it takes work
time.
and sacrifice and time, like
Consistency.
Exactly. Like you gotta be consistent. You gotta know how to market yourself. You gotta look at the business part of it, because the business end of being a full-time photographer is a lot different than just the fun, nice part about it. You know, taxes suck, bro.
Dude.
Hey,
I'm gonna tell you right now,
started.
taxes suck.
Yeah.
When you're self-employed,
He
like
complains about it all the time.
I think that's
such
one.
BS, bro.
Because I love like being able to create something, and then like I can make the product, I could could sell the product. But when it comes to like taking care of the money, that's where I struggle a little bit. But I'm learning. Like you kind of learn as you go. But then when it comes to taxes, that's a whole nother bracket.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing where
sucks,
I just can't like get myself to understand. But like you understand, but it's like you kind of
finding
get it
like
over
all
time.
your deductibles and what you can claim and what you can't claim, and you have to tax yourself because there's no one taxing you. And if you don't tax yourself, IRS is gonna come knocking like, "Where's my money at?" And you don't want that. So it's like you may think I can get away with a year of not taxing myself. Yeah, good luck, bro.
Yeah, you're
because
going
in
to
2-3
jail.
years and you get audited.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Dude, there was a few years back, man, where, man, I don't know, something ended up happening with my tax guy and stuff. And that's the other thing, too. Like, you know, if you end up getting somebody to do some of this stuff for you and they don't do it right, they don't submit it, like shit like that, then, you know, that's also a downfall of it, too, man. But a few years ago, something like that ended up happening for me. And I ended up having to pay them back the next year, you know, and it was like, it was a huge amount, and I was like, what? And it wasn't even like, here's how we're going to do it. It's like, oh, you have it? We're taking it.
Yeah, no, taxes can be a bitch, man.
Yeah, for sure. It's like you have to get this business account, and like every transaction, you can't do anything personal on it. No. And then you have to categorize everything. Every
you go
day, every
and
month,
spend money on food. It's like,
transaction.
does this count as a business expense or a personal? Am I on a business trip? Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess it does because I'm out on a business trip. So, and I got to eat.
Right.
You know? But if
gasoline.
I'm just going to freaking McDonald's because I want McNuggets, like, no, you can't classify that as business. So and you just have to do everything yourself, which definitely takes some time to get adjusted. And I've had people who are in that point who are like, I just don't want to do it anymore. And I'm like, don't let it deteriorate you from, you know, doing it again, because it's just the reality, bro. Like if you want a business and you want to be self-employed, that's the hardship of it. You got to learn your taxing. You got to learn how to manage all your accounts. And it's just part of it, you know? At first I was just like, man, this sucks. Like, I don't want to, why did it become full-time? You know what I mean? But then I think about the positives of being full-time. I'm like, that outweighs that by a long shot.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, whatever, bro. I'll deal with it. It's fine.
And once you get it down, I mean, like, you know, the actual business side of it, like you're saying too, I mean, it's a small fraction, you know, and the benefits definitely outweigh the bad.
No, yeah, I mean, you can complain about taxing an account, but are you going to complain when you can get up whenever you want?
That's true.
About making your own schedule? About, oh, if I don't want to work for a week, I don't have to? Or I want to go on a trip, who's going to stop me? I don't have to take days off.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
I'm going.
Yeah, it's like I'm out.
And what's really cool about that too, man, like even you could make money even out of your vacations, you know, you could shoot wherever you're going to go, you know, so it's like, hey, I'll be here for the next week. You know,
I mean, I'm going to LA in 2 weeks because my cousin hired me to do engagement photos out there.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, which is dope. Like, that's my cousin. Obviously, I'll definitely go down there. And she's like, you know, I'll pay you for everything. Like, don't worry. Don't think I'm going to, like, hire you for free. You know? And I'm like, that's dope. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to drive a crap ton and claim all that mileage. I'll tell you that. Because she's like, do you want me to fly out? I'm like, no, I'll drive.
You can even rent a car.
Yeah, I was like, I'll drive. Don't worry about it. And then, you know, I made a post about, I'm going to be out here. One of my other cousins who lives down there is like, I want family pictures. And then her sister's like, I want family pictures. And so now I got like 3-4 things to do on a little trip. And it's like, I'm going to go work, but I'm going to go see my family at the same time. So
that's cool.
It's dope, man. You know, like I can't complain.
Hey, I'm going to throw a crazy idea out there, man. All right, so here's what it is. All right, man. We're going to go 50-50 in on this, dude. All right. And I have to take 50%, man. But this is what we're going to do. You guys remember like the old school, like, Cholo mall pictures and stuff, man.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Like the 1990s,
back,
dude.
Bro.
That's been a thing.
Really?
I've been seeing those on Twitter a lot. Like people do like those 90s themed shoots in a studio where they dress up like that and like they're just all over the place. I'm like, is that a thing nowadays? Yeah, like I low key think that's like an open market right now.
Dude, it's coming back, bro.
It definitely is.
Hey, you better tap into it.
Might have to go tell Chava let's move, bro. You got the studio space already. Let's get some backdrops, you know?
Yeah, dude.
It definitely is becoming a thing. So.
Yeah, man. I think that stuff is so funny, dude. And I was like joke about it with them too. Like, dude, that's gonna be the next thing. He's like, it's not happening. I'm like, watch, man.
And then it usually happens,
And it happens, and you're like, wow, would you look at that? That's a thing now.
That's so cool.
Absolutely, man. Well, dude, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. You know, after some little cancellations on our part and stuff like that.
Oh, it's all good. It happens.
we made it happen and stuff, dude. You know, and it's been great, dude. But Tell everybody where we could find you along with the podcast, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So social media, I mean, my Twitter is very personal. You're not really going to see business stuff there, but if you want to see what I'm about on a personal level, come through on my Twitter. I just tweet random bullshit all the time. But my Twitter is @Nanders, Nanderrs. Same with my Instagram. That's where I just post most of my work and, talk to clients or whatever. Our podcast is For Creatives by Creatives. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. We have a Instagram page, and I mean, we do weekly episodes, release them Thursdays, and
what do you guys talk about on there?
So our podcast is based on creatives in the Reno, Tahoe area. It's just their story, what they do, how they're coming up, what they want to do, kind of a way to get them out there. Chava and I fortunately have like a decent following, so we can kind of expose it out to people like, hey, this person does this. This is another local here who does this, and our purpose is just to make locals grow. Nice. Like we just want to get them out there. We want to hear what they're about. A lot of them we haven't ever met in person. Right. Some we knew as friends, and we have them come in just so other people can know what they're about. Yeah. So that's kind of what our podcast is about. It's just if you're a creative, man, come through. We don't care if you just draw, like come on. Yeah. Like you want to get your out there more, like just come through and talk about it. Yeah. So that's what our podcast is about.
That's cool. Oh yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, again, thank you, dude. Of course. Can't wait to see all the great things that you're gonna do this year, man. Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you, man. Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. This is awesome, dude. Absolutely. I think I appreciate podcasts more now. I have one,
After all the work that goes into it.
Yeah, and it's just it's cool to come on one and be on the other side. Like I had only ever done a podcast before where I was interviewed, but this was like 2-3 years ago. So it's kind of nice to update. Yeah. Like since then on like what kind of I got going on and everything, and it's just cool, man. Come talk to you guys. I had never met you, so it's awesome to like meet you now. I hadn't seen you in forever,
dude. It's been a long time.
So it's just cool to catch up, and this is a cool little environment. I like it, and I'm really stoked you guys are doing this, dude. Yeah, like likewise. I think it's awesome that you guys got like your own little thing going, and you're just gonna bring more people to talk in and stuff, and 6 episodes, that's good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so far so good, bro. That's awesome. You're getting there. Yeah, so no, it's cool, dude. I really appreciate you guys having me come in and having me here, my talkative ass self.
No, man, shit, you want to talk some more, man? We'll bring you back on, bro. We'll go, 2 different episodes, 6-hour sessions.
Maybe hit me back up in like 2 years, see where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about that?
Right. Yeah,
let's do it.
Give me a little time to do something different and give you an update. So.
All right, yeah. Pleasure having you on.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
No, thank you
right.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Later. Sweet.